Welcome to Blue Talks.
I am on a passion quest. It could change the world. It could shift the global consciousness, and I'm hoping by the end of my talk you will join me. I am thankful to be here at UCLA today, and I am also a member of Easy Way, just to mention it while I'm up here. When you hear the word rich, what comes to mind? Money, big house, yacht, jewels, gold. Some years back, these two Russian women came to my town to interview me, and they wanted me to come to their city and teach drama to the children at their schools. And we had an interpreter because they only spoke Russian and I only spoke English. And one woman looked at me very pointedly and she said, "We are so different in Russia than you in America because our gold is our children." So we are all surrounded by so many riches and we don't really pay for a lot of those riches. We all breathe air, we have friends, we have family, we have nature, we have potlucks, one of my favorites, and one of my very personal favorites is giving. My superpower in life has been giving, even when I had nothing. Even when I was poor as a pauper, I would give the shirt off my back to my friends. And it was my superpower all along, and I plan to do a lot more of it. My mother was a single mother, and she was a teacher trying to make ends meet with her meager teaching salary. And my brother, my younger brother, Bobby, and I would often go to bed without dinner. We'd go to school without lunch. And I remember sitting across from all the other kids feasting on sack lunches when I had none. But I don't tell you this story to make you feel sorry for me, because later I married an organic farmer. And and what happened was, what I want you to do is go out into your own neighborhoods and help kids who may not get enough food now and enough nutrition. My second superpower is my imagination. I don't think teachers were very enamored with me because I'd never paid attention in class. My head was always in the clouds, imagining what my future life could be, imagining stories, and imagining the impossible. And I know that I was getting the exact education I needed to become the writer I am today. And I think I was in good company because Einstein says, imagination is more important than knowledge. My third superpower was believing. I am really good at believing in anything, and I can believe in the impossible. When I was about 8, we used to go to church every Sunday, and on the side of the road was this A-frame house. And I looked at that house and I was enamored with it because it should be sitting in a forest. And it looked so different from the tract homes, busy neighborhood we lived in. And one day there was a huge sign on the side that said, "Open house." And I begged my mother to stop, and she finally did. And we went in and I inspected every corner of it, inside and out, and it came out. And I said, "I want this house. I am going to get this house." And my 8-year-old self thought I could go out in the neighborhood and make the money in a few weeks and come back and buy it. I didn't get the house then. And at the same time, we went to the movies, which was a very rare event, probably one of the first movies we ever went to. I saw Mary Poppins. And I came home so inspired that I went in my room and I drew a chalk drawing on the ground on a big piece of paper. And I closed my eyes and I jumped on the paper. And I tried 10 times and it didn't work. I thought it would transport me instantly to the magical world of merry-go-rounds and penguins, but it didn't. So I thought, well, if I can't make that magical world with the art, which I wasn't very good, you know, it's probably crayons and I still can't even draw stick people, then maybe I'll write a book like Nancy Drew or The Wizard of Oz. So I started writing a book and I wrote 1.5 pages and I quit because I was 8. And I also had a fairy godmother, my famous suffragette grandmother. She was so amazing because she grew up in a terrible, horrific childhood on a cattle ranch in Colorado. And the teacher saw how brilliant she was and got her to Smith College. And she must have had a star above her head after that, because she was on the front lines of many historic events. Her first job, you won't believe, was to put together the Pulitzer School of Journalism at Columbia with one other man. And her second job, they sent her down to Washington, D.C. to become the first woman lobbyist and to create the first minimum wage for women all across America. If you can imagine, from $4 a week to $8 a week. And then she met Alice Paul. And Alice Paul asked her to be the lobbyist for the women's movement when all of us women won the right to vote in 1920. So she was my fairy godmother. She inspired me, she encouraged me, she taught me, and she fed me. My mother didn't realize it, but when I was 12, she moved us into a total gangland. My brother didn't make it out. He was a casualty. He died in the street later on in life. And I walked through unscathed because I was kind of goofy, like I am now. And I was very naive, extremely naive. I would follow the gang around and do all the stuff. I mean, my friends, I wasn't in the gang. But I was so tall, taller than everyone else, that no one would date me. And now I know that's a huge blessing at this point. At that point, I became a real Cinderella, because my mother would wake up at 5 a.m. and she would take off for school at 6 and drive 45 minutes to her teaching job and set up classroom. And then she'd come home at 5 and she'd go to bed by 6 because she had a terrible constitution and was always sick. So that left me with all the work. I'd get my brother up, I'd get us breakfast, I'd get us out the door to walk a mile to school. I'd come home in the afternoon, I'd do all the housework, I'd make dinner, and I did the dishes. But you know, I don't begrudge any of that, because it made me the worker, and the worker served me all my life, and it made me who I am today. And so it was a good thing, all of that, everything that ever happened to me. I believe I wouldn't be who I am today without it. Then my grandmother was instrumental in getting me into college. And that's, when I first got there, I was looking at all the trees and I thought, why aren't these trees, fruit trees, so all of us hungry students would have something to eat? And then I met my husband, my future husband, and I married Rich. He wasn't a millionaire, his name was Rich. And when we first got married, we struggled like most couples, working odd jobs. But right as we got married, we were offered a job in Hawaii on Maui, kind of menial labor jobs. So for our honeymoon, we hiked through the volcano Haleakala, and you brace yourself because you're big backpacks and it's all downhill, 29 miles from the top to the bottom. And we spent the first night in the Sierra Club cabin right in the middle of the volcano, hoping it wouldn't go off or something, you know. And then the next day we trekked down to the bottom and we hitchhiked to Hana, and we jumped the cliffs of the 7 sacred pools, and we ran naked through the jungles for 3 days. A lot of my friends came to me afterwards and said, didn't you want to stay in one of those fancy hotels? And I'm like, are you kidding? No, even if we had had the money, I would not have the memory of that incredible honeymoon. When we got back to the mainland, he put me to work on his family's citrus ranch. And he lucked out getting a real Cinderella. He would say, hey, go out there and drive tractor for 8 hours, or let's pack for 12 hours. And I'd always be happy to do it. And when I first got to the ranch, so I looked around and there was all this fruit. And I said, Rich, we have to give some of this fruit to hungry people. And he said, Mila, we do not give fruit away, we sell it. Because his family had come out of the Depression and they were very parsimonious. But guess what? I won out. And for the last 40 years, we've given 10 to 20,000 pounds a year to the food banks. Wow. Then, right after that, I decided I wanted to become a missionary in my own neighborhood. So I started a theater company for children. I didn't even have $1 in my pocket. So I went to the big theater in town and I talked to the theater manager and told him what I wanted to do. And he loved it. So he said, I'll give you a huge discount and you can pay after the show's over with the ticket sales. So I started this theater company. We ended up doing it for 30 years. I worked 8 hours a day, 9 months a year without ever getting paid a penny. And I brought in other volunteers that worked with me and believed in it because I believed in it. And we helped so many children with an after-school program. We taught probably 3,000 children in the end. And what we did was we realized halfway through, Paulette came with her daughter, who at 8 years old could sing opera. And she saw what I did for her kids, so she stayed with me and worked with me all those 30 years. And right in the middle of it, we thought, we're not teaching children theater as much as we're teaching them confidence and self-esteem and accountability and tons of other attributes. And then about in the middle of the 30 years, I read a biography about Mother Teresa. And I thought, I should go to India. I should stop everything I'm doing and go help her with the lepers and to feed the people. And at the end of the book, she said, don't come to India and help me. I have plenty of volunteers. Stay in your neighborhood and help the people there. And so I rededicated myself to the theater and finished the 30 years. It was the best part of my life. It was my passion. And so I've always been the one to give. In almost every work situation, I've always had to work harder than everyone else. When we worked at the ranch, I would work side by side with someone and I'd come out covered in mud. It's just how I was. But that's my karma. That's how I do it. That's how I roll, is I have to give all the time, every minute, and I don't mind giving more. I don't mind doing more work. It's just who I am. And so I've always used my superpower, and I always believed. And the more I give, the more I get. I don't do it for that reason, but I have become totally abundant in my life. I'm a whole different person now, and with so much surroundings, and I own a ranch and all kinds of things. And so remember that A-frame home? My father-in-law, when he turned 90, who I loved dearly, wanted to move in with us. So he helped us by financing half of a huge, beautiful home that we built on our land. We lived in the foothills. We live in the foothills while the ranch is down there in the valley. And so we built this beautiful home, and after it was built and we moved in, I went down below the house and I looked back up at it, which I'd never been in that position before, and I gasped in shock. It was exactly the A-frame home, but 3 times as big. I believed in it for so long. It took decades to get, but my belief system is so strong that I did get that house against all odds. So I'm going to step forward into the world, and I'm going to give more. I've decided there's a way to do it. I want to inspire all of you to go out and give little things, big things. It doesn't matter. Just smiling at someone in line at the grocery store can change their day, can change their life. People have come up and told me that before. You changed my day, thank you. Or maybe, the whole thing about little things, opening the door for people. I opened 3 doors for people today before I even got here. And paying the meter, but there's so many other things. Take soup to a sick person. Just think of it. Think of all the things you can do all day. To me, it's like a puzzle. Every morning I wake up and I go, what else can I do to help make the world a better place and make it easier for everyone? And then I try to do it incognito, without anyone knowing, most of it. And then of course people are going to know, and that's okay. And if I have to do it by myself, that's okay. I will, because when I started the theater, I had no volunteers at all for the first 2 shows. And I would do everything. I would teach the kids for 6 weeks. And then when the show time came, I would put on their makeup and get them their costumes. And then I'd run up and run the light booth. And then I'd run back down and do the bake sale for the intermission, and I'd sweep the floor. And after 2 shows of doing that by myself, I had to ask myself, is this really what I want to do? If no one comes and helps me and I do it by myself? And I said, yes. No matter what, I have the passion for it. I have to do this. I have to help those children, because when I was a child, we didn't have any programs like that. So as soon as I said that and dedicated myself to it inside, guess what? Tons of volunteers came. They came to help do the makeup, sell the tickets, do the bake sale, sweep up afterwards. And I had a whole army of volunteers for 30 years, and some of them stayed with me the entire time. But I want you to go out. I know a lot of you already give, but let's give more. And we'll make it like a wildfire that circles the entire world. And so we go out, and today, tomorrow, next week. Just do one thing to help someone. And then if you feel like it, think of something every day. It's fun. Make it a puzzle. Make it a game. Let's all spread the art of giving like wildfire. I would like to end with a quote I put into every single program that we printed for the shows. And it's a quote by John Wesley, who was a clergyman from the 1700s. Give as much as you can, in every way you can, in every place you can, to all the people you can, as ever you can.